This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you after 26 years from the same place, our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And we can be heard around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, across Europe on Euro Radio TV and Radio X, and, of course, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. And don't forget our good friends on iHeartRadio. If you'd like to find out all about the great programming we have available for you 7/24/365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, all you need to do is go to www.xzbnradio.net, and you can tune in right there and listen to your heart's content. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of having on the show before, and I also have the pleasure of calling him a friend. His name is Dr. Carl Helvie, and he is a registered nurse with 2 masters, one from the University of California, Johns Hopkins University, and a doctorate in public health and wellness from Johns Hopkins University as well, and 60 years experience as a nurse practitioner, educator, author, and researcher, who received national recognitions, including the Distinguished Career in Public Health Award from the American Public Health Association in 1999, and listings in the most major national references, including Who's Who in American Nursing, Outstanding Educator in America, Men of Achievement, and 2 listings in Wikipedia. He has published 9 books, including bestsellers, and chapters in 4 additional ones. He also published or presented internationally over 100 professional papers and articles to over 100 lay groups. He has been the host of the Holistic Health Show on BBS Radio since 2008, and he also has been interviewed on over 150 radio television shows since then. In 2014, he founded the Carl Helvie Holistic Cancer Foundation. For more information on Dr. Helvie, or to visit the foundation's website, or to make a donation, just go to www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. And joining me now is the one and only Dr. Carl Helvie. And Carl, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. It's always my pleasure to be with you.
You know, my friend, before we went on air, you were telling me about some exciting things happening in cancer research.
Mm-hmm. You know, I've been working on the content for the website for several years, and right now I'm working on the section on diagnosing. I finished the prevention section, and I ended up also doing a little booklet, which will be out in about a month. It's about 140 pages on preventing cancer. And now I'm doing the diagnosing, and I've got some of the specific alternative interventions partly done, but I've got more work to do on that. So in the diagnosing, one thing that I found very exciting is that they now have tests that will determine with 85 to 95% accuracy that within 8 to 10 years you will have cancer. And they're taking tests that have been around for a long time and putting them together, and that's what is giving them the high probability. And what I find exciting is that you can have the test done. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it was around $300-400. That will predict, as I say, with 85 to 95% accuracy that you will have cancer, and it's based on the theory that cancer starts as a cell that goes wild, and it takes maybe 10, 12 years to develop into a tumor. And so having this test, if you know that you will develop cancer, then you can do things like change your lifestyle, change your diet if necessary, start exercising, start practicing gratitude and praying and doing meditation and all the things that will prevent or hopefully prevent or at least reduce the severity of the cancer. So that's what I find exciting.
All right, Doctor, please stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation, Dr. Carl O'Helvie is my special guest. And to find out more about Dr. O'Helvie, visit www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. And you can also check the doctor out on with his radio show, Holistic Health Show. That's on BBS. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. Welcome back. It's always great having you, the members of the Worldwide X Zone Nation, joining us Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, and, of course, the X Zone Broadcast Network, and other broadcast affiliates and networks around this great big world of ours. Dr. Carl O'Helvie is my special guest. holisticcancerfoundation.com. $400 for a cancer test, that's next to nothing. Wouldn't it be nice if the government picked that up to take better care of its citizens?
Right. Well, another test that I liked a lot, but it's up to $1,800 for the test, and that's a nutritional test. And it will, at the cellular level, it will come up with vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, all kinds of things that you're deficient, and give you recommendations for improving that, which would be another important test for cancer patients. But I don't think that most people could afford that test.
Well, no. And
I certainly couldn't.
Well, and thank the good Lord that up here in Ontario, the government takes very good care of us. We have Ontario Health Insurance Plan here in Ontario, and in Quebec, they also have a very good plan that I'm aware of, since I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec. And other provinces are also taking care. And when we watch what is going on in the United States, just, with our neighbors, we can't understand why this health care isn't taken care of.
Right, and I think it's going to get worse, because what I'm reading is that there will be about 23 million people without health care if this Trump thing passes.
Well, I just hope to the good Lord that his people are taken care of, because 23 million people without health care, that is unacceptable.
But Rob, I don't know how much of that is the Democrats, they're ranting, or if it's true. I mean, I have trouble finding what's true and what's,
oh my gosh,
taken to make money, because I get these things all the time for people. And they try to put the fear into you by saying your Medicare is going to be gone, your Social Security is going to be gone, they're going to do this, that, the other thing. Can you give us some money so we can fight this? And, everyone is trying to take your money.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much of it is true and how much of it is just, a money-grabbing thing.
Well, the main thing is that people may be suffering, and they may suffer more, and they don't deserve to suffer, because I'm sure, like here in Canada, we pay enough taxes. And, thankfully, a percentage of our Ontario tax goes into our Ontario health insurance plan. And, you walk into the doctor's office, you walk into the hospital, and you don't pay anything. And it's great. So, but you've been in
that I found in Denmark, too, is
really?
That they, they pay a lot of taxes, but they get free education if they have if the family has a baby. The husband gets 6 months off to help with the newborn. The homeless, they don't have homelessness in Denmark. Germany has a right to shelter, which means that you can get a room for the night. But Denmark has a right to housing, which is different.
It is.
So you have to have housing in Denmark. And so, they get free education. So, I think that the United States is becoming sort of like a third world country as far as the resources coming from the government, and we still pay a lot of taxes.
It certainly is something to ponder. And, X-Zone Nation, if you're in the United States and you've got concerns, call your congressman, call your senator. They're your representatives, and let them know your thoughts. Let them know how you feel, because it's for the people, by the people.
Right.
All right. So much for my political orange crate for tonight, Carl. Over the past number of years as a professional health care giver, how many? You must have seen some phenomenal changes.
Well, one of the changes that I like is that there is more attention to the alternative. There are more and more naturopathic doctors. When I first started in nursing 60 years ago, there wasn't such a thing. It was all MDs. That was it. Chiropractors. There were chiropractors when I was growing up, but
they weren't really recognized, were they?
No, and that's a more recent thing.
Yeah.
But the naturopathic doctors, they are more into the alternative and more into the natural approach, which is what I like. Also, there's, the government now has the complementary alternative health center, which is good because there's research going on in terms of the alternative approaches and the natural approaches, and I think people are demanding an alternative because the healthcare is just so expensive here, and so many people don't have it, and so I like seeing that change, but I don't like the emphasis on drugs.
Yeah.
Drugs, if you take one drug, then you've got to eventually take two more for the side effects of that one. And by the age of 65, they estimate that everyone are on at least 5 medications.
My good heavens.
You know, that's horrible. I take one, and that's it. I take a metoprolol, and my doctor wanted me to take blood thinners, but you know, almost everything you eat is a blood thinner, and I have trouble not getting too much blood thinners. I can't even take all of the supplements I used to take because everything is a blood thinner. And so why take Coumadin or one of those horrible blood thinners when you can get it naturally? So I just take fish oil, I take krill oil, I take omega-3s, I take something called nattokinase, which is fantastic because it if you start to get a clot, it eats up the clot.
Wow.
And so you don't have to worry. I don't worry about having a stroke. You know, I take, of course, CoQ10.
Yeah.
I take something that builds up the heart muscle, L-carnitine, I think it is, builds up the heart muscle. I mean, there's all kinds of natural things that you can do. And magnesium, you know, magnesium reduces the stress on the heart. The heart loves magnesium. And the nice thing is the only bad effect of magnesium is if you take too much, you get diarrhea. But then you can back off.
Hey, everybody deserves a good flush once in a while, right?
Right. But the heart loves it because it's very soothing to the heart. So, you know, I just do my natural things when I can. And, you know, I take a fair number of supplements, but I'd rather do that than get on these medications and then have side effects.
Carl, when I was a young man growing up in Montreal, we lived on the South Shore in the country. And I can't recall such a popularity of people with cancer. It was very rarely heard of. What happened over the years to increase the number of patients who have cancer?
Well, I think, first of all, medicine does not, and the drug companies do not want cures because they make too much money from it. And so there have been cures for years, but anytime someone comes out with a cure, they pull out the quack law, and they call them quacks. And a good example is my friend Dr. Forsyth, who wrote a chapter in my lung cancer book in 2012. And the FDA went after him and the Medical Association. And when I see that on the Internet, I think, well, I wonder what great things that guy's doing.
Yeah.
That he's drawn that kind of attention. Well, he is doing great things. Right now, he's taking stage 4, and his criteria is 5-year survival. And I understand he's having 60-some% success. Whereas the traditional, when they have chemo and surgery, 5-year survival, stage 4, it's about 5%.
Oh, my God.
So, you know, they go after him. But I think the other thing, our food supply, we've got genetically modified foods, which I know causes diseases in people. You know, so you try to stay organic if you can. People have gotten lazy because we've got televisions, we've got, you know, all of this stuff that supports that. So the couch potato term came along. People aren't exercising like they should. I think that people are not as much into faith as they used to be. And so I think that our environment is so polluted, not the food only, but our air, our water, from the dumping from all of these factories and all into the water supply. Everything is so polluted that, to me, and then the stress on top of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think it's little wonder that we have one out of every two people will have cancer in their lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
That's not surprising at all.
Yeah, we live in
But as you say, when we grew up, it was rare.
It was so rare. Mind you, when we grew up, you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the table with Mom and Dad. Except during the week when Dad wasn't home for lunch, he was at work, God bless him. But there was a lot more family unity. There was a lot more, like you were saying, religious practice. Neighborhoods. The kids played outdoors, my goodness, until the sun went down. And today, everybody sits in front of their, like you were saying, their TV, their computer, and I've developed these two phrases. Smartphones make dumb people. Smart cars make dumb drivers. So we need to get back to the basics.
Right. Definitely.
All right, Doctor, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Dr. Carl Helvie is our special guest. And if you'd like to find out more about the good doctor, visit his website, HolisticCancerFoundation.com. And he can be heard on BBS Radio on his own radio show, Holistic Health Show. And that's on BBS, and he's been on BBS since 2008. We'll be back on the other side of this break with Dr. Carl Helvie as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Carl Helvie is our special guest, www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. Carl, do you think that the amount of microwaves that we have going around these days also is a contributing factor to the increase in cancer?
Right. I think that, the microwave, the electromagnetic energy, I'm not sure about that. I think that if that is controlled properly, it might be all right. But in most instances, it isn't. And the cell phone, the research shows the brain tumors, especially if people hold them up against their head, and the breast cancer for those that carry it, near their breast.
Yeah.
So, but I bought a Beamer recently. Are you familiar with the Beamer?
The car?
No, it's a electromagnetic energy. It's the same at the same rate as comes from the Earth.
No, that was a pretty bad joke. I'm sorry. Yes, I am aware of it. Yeah.
And it uses the electromagnetic energy. And I've been using it. I got mine, I guess, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the reason I got it is because at 85, my vision is beginning to dim, and I've been using herbs for 8 years, and the doctor keeps saying, you've got cataracts, Well, I'm almost blind in one eye, and so I'm afraid to have cataracts, because if they did something to the other eye, then I can't see.
Right.
And I got too much work to do. So I thought I would try the Beamer. Well, my vision is getting better. I can tell. I can read better. I have an eye chart, and I can read better. And I have an appointment with my annual appointment with my eye doctor next month, and I'm anxious to see what he says.
I'll bet you he's going to be impressed.
I know that it's working, and I think the reason they've never had success with someone my age before, but I think the reason is that right now I'm vegan, and I've been vegan for over a year at this time, and most of my life I've eaten primarily fruit and vegetables, nuts and grains, and not a lot of the pastas and the bread, and I don't eat cake and candy and ice cream and any of that. And I think that that's probably why that the Beamer was successful with the cataracts. But also I have much more energy.
Wow.
Since I've been using this. And also, if I put it on my knees, I was having trouble going downstairs because I fell a couple of years ago. I thought I was at the bottom of the stair, and there was one more.
Oh, jeez.
I fell and landed on one leg, and that one has always been a problem since.
Right.
But if I put the Beamer bag or the Beamer pad on my knees once a day, that clears up too.
Wow.
So I'm not sure about the electromagnetic energy. I think that at the right level, it's probably healthy, and otherwise it isn't.
A lot of people today are into the diet fad. They buy all this diet pop. They buy this sugar supplement. And I have to ask you, Doctor, what is your opinion on aspartame?
I stay away from aspartame as far as I can go because there's been a lot of neurological problems of people that used that in the past. I think recently, haven't they changed the name of it, trying to sell it again? And I think that the only sugar substitute that people should use is stevia, which is a natural plant. And occasionally I'll see the plant at the farmer's market.
Right.
And I pick it up and I bring it home, and I'll take the leaves, and when they dry, I'll just, just take my fingers and mash them up and put them in a cup of tea or something. It sweetens it.
Wow.
And so I like stevia because I know it's a plant.
We used to have an advertiser on the show, Just Like Sugar, and their product is mostly orange peel that has been... It's 100% all natural. And, this was going back years ago, and that product today... It can be found everywhere, and we use it here at home. My wife uses it for cooking. She uses it in, we use it in our coffee and our tea. And sometimes we look at each other and say, do you remember when Mike used to come on the show and we used to talk about Just Like Sugar? And it's still available. And, many times you go to a convenience store whenever it's lunchtime near a school, and you've got these kids buying all this diet pop, and it's like, my God, no wonder we live in a screwed up fat society. People are eating the wrong foods.
Yep, right. The fast foods and the pops and all that. Yeah, I drink water. That's it. I haven't had a soda, even a diet soda, in probably 30 years.
My gosh.
And I don't. I might take a lemon in the morning. Often I do this. I'll take 2 or 3 lemons, squeeze them, put a little bit of stevia in, and fill it up with water. and it's good for your alkaline balance in your body. But other than water, that's about. And I might occasionally, not very often, I should do it more often because green tea has been shown to be very cancer preventive. But
Right.
I rarely drink tea. I just don't seem to find the time to just sit and enjoy it like you should with a cup of tea.
Well, that's because you're so busy helping so many people.
I try, Rob.
You succeed, my friend. The word try, when it comes to Dr. Helvie, does not exist in his dictionary. You succeed.
Well, thank you.
Listen, let's talk about the Cancer Foundation, the Holistic Cancer Foundation. Tell our listeners about it.
Well, I wanted to start it because of my having had lung cancer. It'll be 43 years next month.
My gosh.
And also because even the alternative people, until recently, have not focused on the mental, spiritual aspects. They focus on the physical,
Yeah.
but they don't get into the mental, spiritual. Well, I found when I had lung cancer that my prayer, my faith, my optimism, my staying positive, my gratitude, these things were just as important as my diet, as the Laetrile, or anything else. And so I wanted a foundation that looked at everything and bring it all together, and, especially looking at the research. And there is more and more research coming out. For example, Stanford has a gratitude center.
Really?
One of the other hospitals, one of the other big universities, have a forgiveness project. So different universities have faculty that specialize in, an area like this. So I've been interviewing them all. I've interviewed, in my my prevention book, I've got, I think it's 43 links to 43 interviews that I've done, and they've with people in compassion, in prayer, meditation, affirmations, visualization, you name it. I've got it all. I've looked at the research in these areas, and I'm putting all of this on the cancer website in addition to the physical, which is important, but I think the other things are just as important. And also, I think that it's as important to try to fund research as it is to provide education. And so I had three goals. One was to provide education, a second one was to fund research, and a third one was to help financially with patient care. I haven't gotten the resources yet to get past the educational one, but things look good for the near future because I have a painting that I've had for several years that I'm selling that is a valuable painting, and hopefully that will sell and I'll have money from that will allow me to start providing some care for people that need assistance.
Wow. What is your opinion on, I agree with you that it's a combination of everything, and I think the Boy Scouts had the right idea when it used to be clean in thought, word, and deed. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think that it's these basic values that have been neglected in society, and it's just I don't know how to explain it. I find it very frustrating because I believe, like you, that we have to get back to basics. Like, there are people, doctor, that I know. They get up in the morning, they have their coffee, they get into their car, they drive to the local drive-through coffee. Then they go to a drive-through breakfast place. And then they go from one person to another. And in between, they stop at these different drive-ins to get their food. There are drive-in dry cleaners. There are drive-in restaurants. There are drive-in pharmacies. There are drive-in funeral homes, for goodness sake.
And banks.
Yeah, of course, yes. That's the most prevalent one. But how do we get the message across, Carl? What do we need to do in order to wake people up?
Well, I'm hoping that people will start doing this diagnostic test that will tell them that in 8 to 10 years they'll have cancer. Maybe that'll wake them up. There is a fear motive, but I think it's overused. I think that, especially in the political realm,
right,
there's too much emphasis on fear. And, I think that there is a fear model that can be used successfully, but it's overused. But people have to learn on their own, which is a difficult lesson for me because I went out there as a young public health nurse thinking that I was going to teach them and they were going to change. They didn't, People have to learn on their own, and I know from being a smoker, I smoked for many years, and I didn't stop until I had lung cancer.
Wow.
God kept giving me messages all the way along, but I didn't listen. But when I had lung cancer, I listened. So I think we're all that way. We have things that we do. There's still things that I do that I know are not the healthiest, but I've developed the philosophy that if you try to do the most that you can do, and like I still drink bottled water,
right,
and I know that there's the BPA lining, and that especially if it's transported in the summer and it gets hot, that leaches into the water, and that's cancer causal. But, I just haven't been able to get away from that. I haven't gotten I guess I could get a filter to handle the same thing, but I just haven't done that yet. So,
Carl, stand by, my friend.
What triggers us?
All right, Carl, stand by. We've got to take our break. Exo Nation, I'll be back with Dr. Carl Helvie after this break. Whatever you do, don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Exonation, Dr. Carl Helvie is our special guest, and he is the gentleman behind the Holistic Cancer Foundation. Now listen, Exonation, I'd want you to go to his site, www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. See what this man is doing. See how you can get involved. It's very simple. Just go to www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. And you can listen to Dr. Helvie on the BBS. And tell us about your radio show, Doctor.
It's a holistic health show.
Mm-hmm.
You mean what is it?
Yeah.
It's primarily alternative doctors talking about how they treat patients and the research that is going on. And I used to do series. I had a series on diabetes, a series on back pain, seasonal allergies, cancer, of course, and a variety of things. I don't do that anymore, but the series I think were good. They were usually about 3 months, and it gave a good overview of alternate ways of dealing with things like diabetes.
Fascinating. Well, you're a good man, and you've done a lot of hard work, and I'm sure that you've helped many, many people over the years. Before we went to the commercial break, you and I were talking in the last segment about aspartame. And here's a funny thing to that Craig, the producer, found. The same people who manufacture aspartame are the same people who manufacture the fertilizer that grows GMOs. And they're the same people who own the pharmaceutical companies.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Wow,
well, talking about creating your own market, yeah. Have you ever heard of a disease called Morgellons?
No.
No, it's referred to as well as the fiber disease, where these little fibers are found coming out of the body and out of sores, and I thought maybe you might have had some insight into that.
No.
No. So when it comes to the holistic health profession, what can listeners look forward to in the future, Doctor?
Well, I think that that people are beginning to focus on the mental, spiritual aspects. I think that they've progressed a lot as far as the alternative treatments for cancer, like the insulin potentiation therapy, and they have a theory, related to that, the same as the Laetrile. There was a theoretical basis for everything I did, including the high-dose vitamin A. And I was excited about 4 years ago because when I had cancer, my doctor told me to take 200,000 international units of vitamin A for 1 week daily, then 100,000 for the next week daily, then 50,000 for a year.
Holy cow.
The normal is 5,000, and it's a fat soluble, which means that it's not excreted like the B's and the C's, but it stays in the body, and you can have toxic effects. I told him, I said, well, I'm a little concerned about this. He said, well, I'm going to have you take high-dose vitamin E to take care of the risk of it. And, well, I said, but that's another fat soluble. Well, about 4 years, and he told me that the reason I was doing it was to prevent the normal cells from converting to cancer cells. Now, this was 43 years ago. 4 years ago, I found the research that just came out that they had taken breast cancer cells, they had taken breast cancer cells and normal cells. They used vitamin A. It did nothing to the normal cells, did nothing to the cancer cells, but it reverted the pre-cancer cells back to normal. Isn't that fantastic?
That is.
That practice was 40 years ahead of research, and yet they knew what they were doing back then. I find that fascinating.
It truly is. It truly is. What should people do who are listening, what can they incorporate into their lifestyles as a cancer preventative routine?
Well, first of all, I think the exercise, because I told you that's 50%, and so if people can just start walking, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes, but start out, just get started and every day increase it. I slack up a bit in the winter months and I walk. I have a balcony 2 two sides of my house, and I walk on that, and I do about 30 back and forth of that. But then in the summer, I try to build up again and walk out and walk down. I live on the Chesapeake, and I walk down to the Chesapeake and walk along that. And if you just increase it a little bit every day, after a while, you're doing 30 minutes, and it's just zooming by. And stop the sugar. Take your diet and just move slowly and reduce your sugar. Stop all of those drinks that you mentioned, that the kids are eating, and stop giving the kids those drinks. Stop the cakes and the pies and the candies and the ice cream, except for special occasions. It's all right then, but the rest of the time, forget about it.
Moderation is a key word as well.
Yeah, right. So I think that there's things that people can do slowly to, improve their health. I think that they can add, it doesn't cost anything to say hello when you meet people and to, send a card to people and
just be nice.
Let people know that you care about them.
Right, just be nice. And you know what? I think love has a lot to do with it.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
And, around Christmas time, Carl, everybody gets mushy and that Christmas spirit comes through. People go deeper in the pockets when they pass the Salvation Army kettle. They go to the food bank. They bring food down. And it makes them feel really good that they've been part of a solution. Can you just imagine what kind of world we would live in if that Christmas spirit could be extended 365 days of the year?
Right. And it not only helps other people, but it helps the person that's doing
Exactly.
Because it changes, the whole field of epigenetics shows how you can change your DNA. I review the research every Sunday, and I try to put 2 articles on my website. I don't always get the second one on, but I try. And this past week, I read that that yoga, meditation, and Tai Chi will reverse the DNA effects of stress.
How does it do that?
Isn't that interesting?
It is. It is. And, for years, seniors have realized, for some unknown reason, that Tai Chi works. And, apparently the number one age group who take Tai Chi are 60 and over.
I had a neighbor that was going to Tai Chi. I know very little about it, but she went faithfully to her Tai Chi classes, and she was younger than me. I think she was probably 70, 75, somewhere in that age range.
So, Doctor, we have about 2 minutes left. What are your final thoughts? What are your final words of wisdom for the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Well, I think that I would like to end by saying that do not forget the mental, spiritual aspects of living, because the research is showing that they are just as important in preventing disease and living healthy as anything physically you can do. So, as we talked earlier, be nice to people. I mean, it doesn't cost anything, and it helps you. Be grateful. Get up in the morning. I mean, be grateful that you're able to get up and get out of bed.
Exactly.
I mean, there are people, young people, that can't do that. I have a niece that has this disease, and she's on oxygen.
Oh, my gosh.
24 hours a day, and she's bloated and everything else, and it's a horrible life she lives. And she's, I think, about 35.
God bless her.
But, you'll always find people that are in much worse shape than you are, so be grateful for that. I thank God every day for the weather that we've got. If it rains, then I figure we need the rain.
Exactly.
If it's sunny, then, I'm happy to see the sunshine. And, I think that I will live longer as a result of being grateful than if I had sat around focusing on myself. And also, that's the other thing, if you keep busy and you keep helping people, you don't have time to be thinking about yourself and how bad you feel and all that stuff. And so you feel good.
Well, Dr. Helvie, I wake up in the morning, and as long as I'm on the right side of the grass, I know it's going to be a great day. So, Carl, until the next time we meet, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. Don't be a stranger. Anytime you'd like to come and visit, let us know. And Exonation, if you'd like to learn more about Dr. O'Helvie, his website is www.holisticcancerfoundation.com. And you can always read about Dr. O'Helvie in the X Chronicles newspaper, and you can also listen to his ads right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and I'll be back on the other side of this break. Whatever you do, don't go away.